welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. So the imperative of the hour is to pass a tobin tax, a securities transfer tax, a trading tax. It's a sales tax for Wall Street. It's a tax on Wall Street financial turnover, on speculative hot money flows that they're now doing not just as high-frequency trading. They're doing it as flash trading, hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions per second, partly designed to get the arbitrage from the tiniest of these fluctuations. It's time to call a halt. It's time to throw some sand into the gears of flash trading and high-frequency trading. And that is the sense of the AFL-CIO proposal. We have long been aware of the efforts of this interesting group of Democrats in the House of Representatives, Marcy Kaptur of Ohio, DeFazio of Oregon, Peter DeFazio of Oregon, and Kucinich has also joined in. And this group has been talking about a Tobin tax for some time. DeFazio is the chairman of the Highways and Transportation Subcommittee. He has introduced a bill for a 0.2%. This is now 2 mils. You want to get up to 10 mils, boys, but 2 mils is already better than 1 mil. He wants a 2 mil tax, that is a 0.2% transaction tax, Tobin tax, on crude oil futures contracts that would tax options and futures, or options on futures as well, which would get up to 5 mils, 0.5% of 1%. DeFazio says the tax is simple. It imposes a small burden that penalizes short-term traders for speculating on the price of oil. It exempts legitimate hedgers, right? He distinguishes between hedgers and speculators. A hedger is if you're going to eventually use some of this stuff and you need to protect yourself against price fluctuations. That's fine. So this is a tax on speculation only, which we can do in commodities markets. In other markets like derivatives, there is no such distinction because there's no such thing as an end user of derivatives. DeFazio estimates that this tax would bring in $190 billion over 6 years with 29 co-sponsors. And indeed, everybody else is groaning under excessive taxation and austerity. Why is it only the Wall Street hyenas and jackals who get away with this stuff, and the public be damned, so to speak? So naturally, the yelps from the Wall Street speculative quarters, the various parasites, this is communism, this is Bolshevism, this is the end of the world, this will deprive us of the wonderful creativity of these new financial products, this will be absolutely deleterious. Well, the usual garbage. And of course, our friends from the Austrian school and the Chicago school will join in that any tax on speculation, why, you can't do that. You can tax the shoes that you're buying for your kid for back to school, and the school supplies, and the winter coat, and the heating oil you need for your house. But no, you can't ever ask a banker to pay their fair share, or a stockbroker, or a hedge fund operator. No. That's Bolshevism. That's communism. That's off the charts. Well, dear friends, think a little bit about the justice. Think about your own interests. Think about the future of society, and ask whether speculators should belong to a privileged class of gluttons of privilege and princes of privilege who have the rare exemption from any taxation on what they do from day to day, whereas you're paying, in a lot of states, you're paying 5 to 10% on your grocery bill. So we will be following this, and I urge people to get behind it. Remember, this is one thing states can do. You want to have some states' rights? Great. Start with this. Don't go out blathering about states' rights in general. That's going to turn into a reactionary nightmare if you don't put some content in. The content of what a state can do to protect itself is to impose a state-level Tobin tax. Impose your own 1% Tobin tax if nobody else does it. And California, this means you and all the other states that are groaning in the Depression, your income has collapsed because the economy has collapsed, because Wall Street has generated a derivatives panic and a derivatives depression complete with the collapse of the Anglo-American banking system. We're still drifting towards a new level of a new series of Niagara Falls. And in the meantime, why don't you do something to replenish your own coffers, maintain the vital services upon which civilization depends, and at the same time bridle this speculation, which is, again, the cause of the crisis. And you'll be striking a blow against globalization. And that would, of course, involve people going to Pittsburgh in the next 10 days for the meeting of the Group of 20, rather than just saying, you know, we don't like the IMF, we don't like the Group of 8, the Group of 20. Well, who could like them? That's been done. That's old hat. Why don't you get out there and propose concrete attacks on these speculative, parasitical financial interests by a Tobin tax? And again, the range now goes from 1 mil, the FFL-CIO proposal, to 10 to 5 mils, which is the DeFazio proposal, to my own, which is 10 mils, 1 cent, 1%, 1 cent on the dollar. That's little enough. And you may want to make it more, right? In some states, somebody might want to come out with 5 cents on the dollar. Why not? If you're in a place where these markets are not heavily represented, then maybe you need to make it higher. The news coverage on this also points to the fact that His Lordship, Lord Adair Turner, the chairman of the Financial Services Authority in Britain, that is to say the principal United Kingdom banking regulator, is publicly in support of taxing financial transactions. The French government, Kouchner, the foreign minister in particular, has endorsed the Tobin tax as a way to fund development in poor countries. But wait. This is the way some of these Eurocrats and Eurogorks put it. It is a tax on financial brokers in favor of banks, and in particular of the Paris Club, who are the government debtors, the government creditors of the Third World. In other words, countries to whom foreign debt is owed by Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, other poor countries. The Paris Club and the London Club. The London Club are the private lenders to some of these sovereign debtors in the Third World. They want to use the Tobin tax so they get paid. This we do not want. It's not at the level of the United Nations. It's not international. It is designed to strengthen the national state and national sovereignty and redress the balance once again between Washington and Wall Street. Up to now, it's Wall Street winning by under Obama 80 to 1 minimally. We want to somehow level that playing field, and the way to do that is that Washington should lash out at Wall Street in some form. So that's the idea of the Tobin tax. Now, to round out our economic considerations here, the U.S. economy is still hemorrhaging jobs at the rate of about 250,000 jobs per month. We're a little bit less than 250,000 jobs lost in the month of August. The level of new unemployment insurance claims is now oscillating at about 550,000 per week. We want to remind everybody the reality of the world economic depression, the breakdown crisis, the contraction of production and employment in all areas. 35 million people now on food stamps. Anybody who talks about abolishing the nanny state or the culture of dependency, the food stamp program, is in effect proposing mass starvation for the American people. Why don't they come out and say so? And that goes for Dick Armey and his friends at Freedom Works. The unemployment figures now approaching 10% officially. We have a semi-official, it's actually official, of unemployed and underemployed, which is 17%. If we try to take account of discouraged workers, people who have dropped out of the workforce, we get up to at least 21%, and in my view, 25%. So 25% unemployment. And we'll have a couple of other eco stats in a minute, but it's a depression.